Take me down to Hockey Town, yeah, yeah.
Hello, hockey fans. The Minnesota Hockey Connection is on the air. And boy, it's been a few weeks because construction in our main PACT-TV studio, so we have to move for a few weeks. And here we are, back again, doing the show. It's good to be back. And we got a lot to talk about. We got high school hockey state tournament. We got the Pee Wee and Bantams, the up-and-coming kids that are playing in these youth teams. And we got the Frozen Four, which I was at. A lot of hockey, and the Wild in the playoff. And then the juniors, the Minnesota Wilderness in the playoffs, starting a week from next week, after this weekend. So lots to talk about, and happy to be back. And here we go. Let's just start where this last weekend I was down in Florida for the Frozen Four in Tampa Bay. And it was a cold night in the 90s every day. And it's so funny. I got a friend back here, and he's been to over 40 straight Frozen Fours. And he's the first one to buy tickets through the NCAA because he's been there the most of any other person. And he gets his tickets, and I usually get a tube from him. And so happened, Duluth has some beautiful weather. They had an ice storm Tuesday, Wednesday. Wind 60, 70 miles an hour. He could not get out of the Duluth airport. First time in over 40 years he could not make it to the games. So he had to send the tickets digitally, which I hate. When you're older, you hate the digital. You want that physical ticket. But he sent them to me, and had to find some people to buy it. And because the Minnesota Gophers were there, I was able to sell them for him. So at least he got his money back there. But what a Frozen Four. Beautiful weather, lots and lots of fans. The place was packed, all the games. Minnesota looked like they were going to be a national champ after 20 years. Last time, 2003, up in Buffalo, when they beat New Hampshire 5-0. So it was a great tournament. The first night, Thursday the 6th of April. The first game was Minnesota, the number one team in the country, against Boston University. And they were number 5 in the country. And it was 2-2 after 2 periods. And then the freshman defenseman, Luke Middlestead, scored 2 goals off the point. And that just led Minnesota to a 6-2 lead. So Middlestead had 2 goals and assists that game. And Logan Cooley, who's on the first line. And we're waiting to see if Arizona's going to sign him. He's just a freshman, but he was in the Hobey Baker top 3. So we'll see. Some say that Arizona won't sign him right now because they'll waste a year in contract. And that means they'll have to pay him a lot more money if he's doing good in the National Hockey League in 3 years. So we'll see on that. But Nyes and Lacombe, the defense men, have both signed pro contracts, plus Brock Faber. And Brock Faber is a Wild. Wild had his rights from a trade from LA Kings. And he played last night against Chicago Blackhawks. So the Gophers so far have lost 3 key players. Sophomores, 2 juniors and a sophomore. And I'm sure there's going to be more. And then second game that night on the 6th was Michigan against Quinnipiac. So that game was close too, 2-2, and then Quinnipiac scored 3 goals in the third. So then the championship game. We're coming into Saturday night now. Place is packed. A lot of fans, Gopher fans and Bobcat fans from Quinnipiac. And the game was really close. Minnesota scored first, the first 2 goals, and we got one from Jason Nelson. He got the second goal, and John Middlestead, forward, Luke's Middlestead's brother, and Casey, who plays for Buffalo's brother, Buffalo Sabres. But so it's 2-0 Gophers, and then early on in the second period, Quinnipiac scored, so it was 2-1 after 2. And the game was going on, and the Gophers had 2 good chances, but they weren't given too many shots. And the Quinnipiac coach pulled the goalie with over 3 minutes, and there was a penalty on the Gophers, so it turned out to be a 6-on-4. The Gophers killed the penalty, but as soon as the player came out of the box, about 3 seconds later, Quinnipiac scored to tie the game, and the crowd went crazy. So now we went into overtime, and everyone just got back into their seats from the break to resurface the ice, and 10 seconds, it was a setup play, and the most valuable player on the Quinnipiac's team scored in 10 seconds, Jacob Quillen. So, national champs, first time, Quinnipiac. And boy, the celebration for our first time winner in the Frozen Four. And boy, that was a great week down there. A lot of people. I've talked a lot. Coach Sandlin from UMD, I've talked to him a few times. Robbie Stauber, former Hobie Baker from Duluth-Denfield, talked to him for a while. Jordan Leopold, another Hobie Baker for the Gophers. David Starman, ESPN and CBS Sports. He does color for hockey, and once in a while he gets on the National Hockey League channel. So, big guy in announcing. So I saw a lot of elite ex-players and professionals, and Wally and Frank that do the radio for the Gophers. They're great guys over the years, and they do a good job for the Gophers. I saw so many people that I can't even name 10% of them right now. But the number one question I got down in Tampa, and it's a good question. What's Quinnipiac? Where's Quinnipiac? No one knew. Well, let me tell you a little bit. Quinnipiac's in Connecticut. Hamden, Connecticut. Hamden. That school was founded in 1929. The enrollment is right around 10,000. That's about the same as UMD. So it's a school the size of UMD, Duluth here, University of Minnesota, Duluth. And the colors are navy and gold. Their nickname is the Bobcats. They're in the Eastern Collegiate Athletic Conference if you want to go in and look at the teams in that conference. And Rand Pecknold is the head coach. In that championship game, which I was amazed, the shots were Quinnipiac 30, Minnesota 15. I don't think I remember a game, and I've been to about at least a dozen games of the Gophers this year, that they got less than 30 shots. And this game, Quinnipiac just shut them down from the first 10 minutes on. I mean, completely shut down. I saw a Minnesota team do things they've never did all year. They were dumping pucks, chasing pucks. They were backing up when the Quinnipiac starts coming up through the neutral zone. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And you got to give credit for Quinnipiac, because they must have really shook up the Gophers coaching staff and that, the way they were playing defensively. But great game, great Frozen Four, great weather. Met a lot of good people that I've known over the years that you don't see very often. So you got to go to a Frozen Four. The next three are going. Next year is in St. Paul. Then it goes down to St. Louis, then Las Vegas. So those three good cities. And you know, the last since they built the XL Energy Center down in St. Paul, every time they had the Frozen Four there, a Minnesota team has won. So I'm looking forward to a Minnesota team winning next year. So moving on, they had the Hobie Baker Award on Friday, the day after the semis. And 2 Gophers and a Michigan player, where they're in the hat trick, they call it, top 3 players in the country and votes and that. And I tell you what, Matthew Nyes, Arizona boy, and Logan Cooley, a Pittsburgh player that played for the Gophers, were 2 of the players. And then we got Adam Fratilli. He's the one that won it, the forward for Michigan. And 2 of these players are already playing in the pros. They signed one day after their last game in college. And then we're looking see what Logan Cooley, if Arizona is going to sign him. So it was a great Hobie Baker. There are at least, I say, 2,000-3,000 outside. They had it outside because the weather was so nice, and the big stage and a nice little area. Sparksman Wharf down in Tampa in the downtown area. So they have a lot of little shops and food places and bars and that. So it was a great event. So there you go, the Frozen Four. It's over, college is over, and Quinnipiac is our national champs this year. So moving on, I haven't been around, so I'm going to go with other events this year. The state high school, Minnetonka won the Class AA, and I predicted them all year, but they had a tough time with all their winning it, but they did the job. They beat Edina 2-1 in the finals, and then Andover beat Cretin Durham Hall 5-3 for the 3rd place game. And you got to congratulate Sean Goldsworthy with a great victory at Minnetonka, and that's his 2nd state championship at Minnetonka. So he's doing a good job down there. So let's give him a hurrah for Minnetonka. And then Class A, Montemita beat Warroad 6-5. Warroad had to play 2 overtime games in semis and finals. And they played their first line 2/3 of the game. And I tell you what, when they go into overtime, that first line is just beat. They're gassed. And I think that's what lost the state championship for them, that playing their first line. But that's the way they won all year, so I would do the same thing what the coach did, is play them. And boy, what a first line though. Shawnee is going to be playing for UMD. He'll probably play juniors 1 year, then come in the UMD. And then for 3rd place, we got our local team, Hermantown, beating Orono 2-0. So another great state tournament for Hermantown. And let's see, Mr. Hockey, Jason Shawnee, Warroad, Mr. Hockey, our UMD recruit. And then Hampton Slalinsky, he won the Frank Briswick as the best goalie, senior goalie of the year, and another Warroad boy. So both Warroad hockey players won the top awards in high school hockey this year. So going into other tournaments, Junior Gold A, Wayzata beat Maple Grove 4-1, and Edina beat Rosemont 3-2 in overtime. In Junior Gold B, Moorhead won 4-2 over Hill Murray, and Prior Lake won in overtime over Minnetonka Black. So what I like about Junior Gold is that players that they might be able to make the high school team, but they probably wouldn't play that much. By playing Junior Gold, they get to play a lot and have fun with their friends. And so it's a great program, the Junior Gold program in Minnesota. So now going to the Bantams. The top Bantam AA, Edina, 3-2 over Moorhead. Moorhead won it last year, so Moorhead has a lot of good players coming up, and they should have good teams if they stay. That's one thing in high school this year, the first time I remember in 30 years that Moorhead lost 4 players went to juniors and didn't come back to high school. So I think they would have had a great chance of winning the state high school tournament if those players were stayed in high school. And then third place in Bantam AA, Rogers beat Grand Rapids 3-1. In Bantam A, this is something I like for the range teams. Hibbing beat Delano 8-1. And I tell you what, Hibbing is getting their program together. They're staying in Class A in high school, but I can see this team be one of the top teams in the Northland in about 2 years, because they had a pretty decent team in high school. They won the state tournament last year in Bantam A and Pee Wee A. So I think we're going to see a lot of good teams coming out of Hibbing for a few years. So that's good for hockey in the Northland. And then third place in Bantam A, Monticello 5, Roseau 4. In Pee Wee AA, we got Moorhead 2, Maple Grove 1. And then we got Chaska Chanhassen 3 and Minnetonka 2 in overtime for the third place game in Pee Wee AA. Pee Wee A, Hibbing 8. Well, I should say Hibbing Chisholm, the combo. It's Hibbing Chisholm. So on War Road 2. And then third place, Delano 6, Minneapolis 3. So I'd keep a watch on Hibbing in the next 3-4 years. It's got 2, 3, 4 years, because even next year, because I think they'll have a very good A team. So there you go with the Pee Wees, Bantams, Junior Gold, and high school hockey. And then they got realignment now, and kind of shocked on a couple of these. Cloquet is dropping down from 7AA to 7A. I'm kind of shocked at that, and I wish the school, whoever does it, the athletic department, whoever decided that, I know the coaches did not want to drop down, but they're dropping down to 7A, so they'll be in the Hermantown class now. And then moving up is Rockridge, which is all the Virginia, Evelyn, Mountain Iron, Mesabi East kids. So they're moving up, and they had a really good A team this year, and they got a lot of returning and a lot of big boys, so I like that. But this is kind of a shocker to me. Duluth-Denfeld moving up from 7A to 7AA. And boy, I want to see if they can compete. It's going to be a tough job for them this next year. And then moving to a different section is Coon Rapids and Blaine to 5AA. And just to let you know how the sections work, you're in AA if your school has 1,202 or plus that. So anything over 12,001 is a AA school, and then everything below 12,002, so 12,001 and below, is an A team. But any A team can ask to move up to AA. You can be enrollment of 400, like Roseau, that you can move up. So we'll see what happens with these numbers now, and if any team thinks of moving up or down. So now we've got, all we have left this year is juniors, the pros, Stanley Cup, and then we got high performance, where you get all the top 16, 17, and 18-year-olds playing down was at our Plymouth Ice Arena, and that'll be later on in this month. So, and then the top kids there, they make a team, they go out to New York, top 16 team, top 17 team. So we'll see what goes on there, and we'll get the players of the year down the line that I think will be top high school players next year. So going to the North American Hockey League, The Robinson Cup is May 19th through the 23rd, and it's back at Fogarty Arena in Blaine. So the top 4 winners of each section they got the Central, Midwest, East, and the South. So the 4 sections, the winner of each, there's 4 teams in each one in the playoffs, and the winner of each will come up to Blaine on the 19th, and the best of the 3 series, whoever they're going against. And then the 2 finals will play on Tuesday night, the 23rd. In Blaine, Fogarty Arena off Highway 65. It's a good, nice arena for this event, and they always sell out. So if you want to watch some good hockey, I mean, they move up and down the ice and that. Every year I go to this, and I love it. And then the USHL, which had 80 kids that at the Frozen Four and the 4 teams that played in the USHL. And so it's a top tier, only tier 1 team in the United States. And so that's why these kids go play juniors, then they go to college. So a lot of these kids, like I said, in the Frozen Four played USHL hockey in the tier 1 juniors. And then another thing I noticed at the Frozen Four, there was over 40 National Hockey League draft picks on these teams. So I can see a lot of them signing contracts and that. And I know a few of them already signed. I know Michigan's 2 of their top players, Hughes and Frentilli, I've already signed. And then we got Knives, and we've got Lacombe and Faber all signed so far. And there'll be more. So let's go with that. Okay, hockey. The Wild have made the playoffs. We just don't know if they're going to be first, second, or third, or even a wild card. But it looks more like they'll be in one of the first 3 for sure. But they won last night. So Colorado's first in the Central with 104. Dallas is number 2 with 102. And Minnesota's 3 with 100. But Minnesota won last night. I didn't look at the other team, so Minnesota's right up there in the top 3, and they could, I guess, win the top spot. But we'll see. They play Winnipeg tonight, which is Tuesday, the 11th of April. And Winnipeg almost has to win to make the playoffs, the wild card. So we'll see what happens. And then in the Pacific, we got Vegas, Edmonton, and LA Kings so far. And all these teams only have like 2, most of them have 2 games left. There might be a couple that have 3 games left. And then wild card so far, looks like Seattle's going to be in it. So Winnipeg, Calgary, and Nashville are fighting for that last wild card team. So that's the Western Conference. In the Eastern Conference, we got Carolina, New Jersey, and New York Rangers in the Metropolitan. In the Atlantic, we got Boston, the most points, the most wins of any National Hockey League team from day 1. And Toronto, Tampa Bay. So Boston really kicked butt in the regular season to see if they can continue in the Stanley Cup. In the wild card, that's a fight too for the 2. We got Florida, New York Islanders, and Pittsburgh all fighting for 2 of the last 3 spots. So there's only 1 point difference between those 3 teams. And like I said, tonight, Minnesota plays Winnipeg. And looking at the sheet, let's see. After Winnipeg, Minnesota has 1 more game goes to Nashville. And then let's see where Winnipeg has. Winnipeg has to play Minnesota and then go to Colorado. So these are 2 playoff teams they have to go against, and they probably have to win both to make the playoffs. So we'll see. And then another good thing, Kirill Kaprizov is back with the Wild. He played 1 game, and they kept him back home now for the Chicago game at Chicago, just to rest up, and some of their key players they kept back home. I think they kept Spurgeon, and I think Eriksson Ek was hurt, so he stayed back home, and Brodeen all stayed home. So get a little rest, and the playoffs should start. Let's see, if the last game is this next following week after the weekend. So I'd say Tuesday, Wednesday next week. A week from today or tomorrow, I think the playoffs will start. So a lot of good play in hockey this year. And to go back, since this studios have been down, I made a lot of copies. We did a couple shows with Mike McGraw. He's a scout and that. I'm going to put that back on there. I had like some coaches like Steve Patoshi of Duluth East, how we talked. No one gave them much credit. You know, they didn't have them in the top 25. I'm going to put that show back up. So the next couple of weeks, I'm going to put some of these shows back up. So if you go to Facebook or if you go to YouTube, Minnesota Hockey Connection, or I think even PACT-TV, you can go to and catch the Minnesota Hockey Connection, some of the back shows and that. And it'll be fun to hear what some of these people have to say and how we got some things right this year. So, hey, I'm glad to be back, and thanks to Jim and Lisa and Vicky at PACT-TV Studios. And they're going to have a brand new studio all set up. It's going to be very nice. They're bringing in all new equipment. They had good equipment before because we had some great shows and it came out very good. So I'm looking forward to the new equipment, and it's going to be fun. But they got to learn the equipment. I'm not going to learn it. That's all. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Minnesota Hockey Connection is still going, and we'll see you at the rink.